some are in the world and is walking. And today, he's talking to you. I'm Laura, and this is Walk and Talk with Dan Watkins.
Conversation for today is going to be around using your authentic voice when you're selling. A lot of people, they're going in and they'll go and they'll get, I don't know, you can get a script from somebody else. You'll go read a book. You'll implement it exactly as they say. And then you kind of leave it at that. And then you miss out on the best part of the sales process, being the authentic version of you while using best sales techniques. So I want to give you kind of a step-by-step guide as to how I go implement this. And hopefully you see it as a real part of it. Every one of these videos, I'm sharing something with you about who I am. And then it makes it to where we get to know each other a little bit better. You know who I am as I'm presenting, whether you've been following these videos for a decade or you've been following for the last week. You get to learn a little about who the person is. And that becomes really important when you're selling. People want to buy from human beings that they can trust, that they have something in common, and that they know that they're going to be able to go do something quite interesting together. And that might be just because they're buying, it could be they're buying a boat, could be they're buying software, could be they're buying physical security, whatever it might be. So what I'd recommend is that you go in and you take any technique. It could be that you're trying to get better at discovery. Could be you're trying to get better at overcoming objections. Could be that you're trying to get better at interviewing, whether you're a leader, whether you're a rep. In the end, it doesn't really matter. Then go find an expert. And what I do in this case is I go pick books. And now if I know an expert, so if somebody's a PhD in a specific topic, then I'll go and I know that PhD, I'll go study with them. More often than not, I'm reading books. Examples of this, when I first started in sales, I read a book, Question-Based Selling, one of my absolute favorite books to get into basically how to leverage questions when you're selling in any part of the sales process. So I go read the book. And then I start practicing like crazy. One of the techniques that book taught is a concept of herd theory. You need to make it safe, whether you're part of a startup or you are part of a major company. You need to make it safe for the buyer. So it talks about herd theory, being able to memorize a whole bunch of clients, industries, etc., that you're really good at. And then it recommends practicing even in the shower. As you're getting ready, can you go, and the idea is, can you mention 10 core use cases without having to pause and think? And then you can just say things like, just to name a few, and that then brings safety to the process. So I start that off. I go do exactly what the book says. Then I go and implement it with customers. Then I personalize it. Now, how do I make using this herd theory authentic to my own voice? That then becomes it. What becomes where I'm focused. One of the other things that I'll do is when I'm selling is I want to be able to go use any of these techniques while using my own vocabulary. I have a goal in every sales process that I'm doing, in every candidate that I'm interviewing, getting to know, is I want to get them to use their version of slang. I don't really care what that version of slang is, but I want to get them to where they are using their most comfortable vocabulary. If you're not using your own most comfortable vocabulary, you're never going to get that from them. I'll give you another example. So I was trying, this was about probably 7 or 8 years ago. I needed another breakthrough in my interview process. I'd read tons on it. I'd read how Google works, really liked their concept of a smart creative. I'd done a lot of research of my own, interviewing just hundreds of reps to try to figure out what were the commonalities among the very top reps. And I was like, okay, I need another breakthrough. So anyway, so I started looking into what are the most respected interviewing books. Jeffrey Smart's book, Who, stood out. And so anyway, so I went and read the book. Said, okay, so now there's core processes. They have a resume review, really, really deep into that. Then they go into a skills review. Then they go into a reference review. I went in and implemented the first two and applied it in my own way. And then I'm not a big fan of reference checks, so I actually didn't apply that. That's another example where you can go in and take a best practice, implement it, but keep your authentic self as you're interviewing. Last thing that I'll just go in and say on that is, in my interview process, one of the steps is a little, let's just call it formal and not as warm, touchy-feely. It's actually an online interview that they do on their own. So what we do is, to make sure that the company or the candidates know how human we are, we do a pump-up call, literally just dedicated to letting them know who we are, why we want to work with them, and things like that. So it humanizes it. It keeps authentic who I am while implementing a better process. Hope this helps.
This podcast is brought to you by Databased, your partner in building revenue teams that actually perform.